Your second question. For what purpose were devils created and brought into existence? The Almighty created Satan and evils. What is the wisdom in it? Is the creation of evil evil? Is the creation of the ugly ugly? The answer, God forbid. The creation of evil is not evil, rather the acquisition of evil is evil. The creation of evil is not evil, rather the acquisition of evil is evil. Now, what does the creation of evil mean? And what about acquisition? Has he acquired it? Is it the creation of evil? We've come back to the topic of destiny, qadar. We said we wouldn't read about destiny, but it seems you wanted it sincerely, so the topic has come to it. The acquisition of evil versus the creation of evil. This is a very important subject. Acquisition, kasbe, belongs to man. Creation, kholq, belongs to God Almighty. The acquisition is the evil part. For instance, let's say I took a rifle in my hand and fired at someone. This act of kasb, this choice is mine. The creation of the fire, the bullet traveling and hitting the person's death, and my pulling the trigger and so on. Since these are all occurrences, they are also created. What belongs to me here? My desire and attempt to kill that person. This belongs to me. What about the rest? It belongs to God Almighty. The functioning of the rifle, its mechanism, the explosion of the gunpowder, the bullet hitting the person, tearing a part of them and causing their death, etc. Since all these are created things, creation belongs directly to God Almighty. If there is creation somewhere, it belongs to God Almighty, because there is no creator other than Allah. It belongs to Allah. What belongs to us? Our desire to kill him. Our wanting such a mistake, such a wrong, such a sin is the evil. Because what is evil there? It is rebellion against God's command. We need to define evil. First, what is evil and what is not? Evil is to oppose God. This is the definition of evil. God says, do not kill. You kill. You want to kill. That is the evil. After that, let's say God had ordained a lifespan of 50 or 60 years for that person. His appointed time, ajal, had come. He had to die. God Almighty uses your action as a means for his death. In fact, you caused the man's death. That is, you enable the fulfillment of his appointed time. That serves a good purpose there. You become a means for a decree of destiny. But that part is good, and it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to Allah. Or let's say a man needs to face a punishment. He needs to face a hardship to be disciplined. Let's say you do something evil. Your evil is evil. But that man experiencing that affliction is good for him. It's necessary to separate these things. The part that belongs to us and the part that belongs to God Almighty. Kasb is the part that belongs to us. If our kasb involves opposing God's command, if there is something contrary to God's command, that belongs to us and it is evil. Once that choice leaves us and God creates it in the realm of existence, it no longer has anything to do with us. It belongs to God Almighty. And God Almighty uses it as a means for something. He either uses it as a means for the person's appointed time of death, or for instance, let's say he needed to go to prison. For justice to be served, he had a sin from somewhere else. He needed to go to prison. That would be good for him, meaning it would be a means for the manifestation of justice. Your evil becomes a means for the justice of his destiny. That part is good. Therefore, Satan's desire to lead people astray, He's thinking, let me lead people astray so they go to hell. This desire and wanting to work for it belongs to Satan. This is evil. But when Satan is set upon us, it becomes a means for our spiritual progress, teraki. Because it's a means for our progress, that part is good. We can say that God brings good out of evil. That is why He allows its creation. God Almighty makes it a means for our test. It serves to separate people, to separate the diamond from the coal. It becomes a means for our progress and so on. It leads to a good outcome. Of course, he, Satan, doesn't do it for the good of people. He doesn't act with the good intention of, let me afflict people so they may progress and go to heaven. He will be treated according to his intention. He will burn. But we can say that God Almighty brings good out of evil. The point here is that one needs to know about partial free will, choosy irrade. For instance, let's say there is an evil person. God created this evil person. God Almighty only creates the things outside of this evil person's will. The will belongs to the person himself. This is a very important point. For example, a man is a person of misguidance, an unbeliever. The choices the unbeliever will make with his partial will, the choices belong to the unbeliever himself. Because a choice is not a created thing. It is a preference. He makes a decision. It doesn't have a physical existence. Since it's a decision, it belongs to the person. But that person's soul, his body, the life he lives, and so on, those are created. Those belong to God Almighty. For example, God creates the prophets. God also creates the unbelievers, but excluding their partial will. Therefore, the unbelief of the unbeliever, the man wants to be an unbeliever with his own will, and God then makes him an unbeliever. For example, a man wants to be a believer. The wanting belongs to the person. Then God creates him a believer. So man is not like a robot in every aspect. For example, you make a robot, you program everything. You make everything. It is now your work. Humans are not robots. Humans decide what they want to be. That belongs to the person. After they decide, if they want to be an unbeliever, God makes them an unbeliever. If they want to be a believer, He makes them a believer. Therefore, the evil there belongs to the person himself, with his will. Does he choose good or does he choose evil? That is, where does he use his will? For example, there is a talent, let's say a talent for speaking a lot. You can use this by speaking truthfully. You can also lie and deceive people, that talent. The talent exists, but the talent alone doesn't mean anything. If you use it in the way of truth, it becomes good. If you use it with evil, it becomes evil. If you refrain, you haven't committed evil. If you don't refrain, you have. God doesn't interfere there. Because if He interfered, then who you are and what you are would not be revealed. God Almighty leaves you free so that the diamond can reveal itself as a diamond, and the coal can reveal itself as coal. If there is interference, there is no test. You are conducting a test. And while the person is marking the wrong answer, you forcefully make him mark the right one. That's not a test you're giving him anymore. You have to let the person be to see what comes out, right? And then when you give a punishment, there will be justice. For example, you are giving a test. You ask 20 questions. While the student was marking the wrong answer, you immediately intervened. You made him mark the correct one. He got 100 points. Now, who got the 100 points? You did, not the student. Then, if you give him a reward for 100 points, he doesn't deserve it. You are giving extra it would be absurd. Or while he was marking correctly, you intervened and made him mark wrongly. He got 0. Who got 0? You gave a punishment. That wouldn't be justice. It would be oppression. But if you don't touch it, brother, you answer these questions this year, then mark whatever you want and be content with the result, with the score you get. Here, of course, you have given your lesson. That is, prophets are sent, guidance is given, the right path is shown, and so on. Now the person says, okay, I did it. I answered these questions. To whom will he object? The student still objects to the teacher, but you say, brother, I didn't fill out this paper. You filled it out. What are you objecting to? You would say, you should have done it right, for instance, and you put the blame on him. Also, a person should be content with what is their due. The issue of talent, as they say. Talents can be different. Levels and ranks. For example, even if your talent is small, if you use it for good, you go to heaven. His talent is small. For example, my talent for reading and understanding is small. Okay, you live according to what you understand. You will still go to heaven, right? We don't necessarily have to have the talent to understand everything like the master, Ustad, but we already affirm it in summary. The truth, that is enough. The height of a daisy and the height of a pine tree or a plane tree may not be the same, but in the end, they can all be candidates for paradise. There, we will be content with our due. The minaret example he gives in the 24th letter, a minaret has 100 steps. Whatever step you climb to is a blessing. You climb to the 20th, and there is someone at the 40th. Why am I not at 40? You should be grateful for the 20th. Let's see you continue in gratitude for that. The answer, the creation of evil. God forbid, the creation of evil is not evil. Rather, the acquisition of evil is evil. Because creation and invention look at the total result. Since acquisition is a specific direct action, it looks at the specific result. For example, the coming of rain has thousands of results, and all of them are good. If some people suffer from the rain due to their own poor choice, they cannot say, the creation of rain is not a mercy. They cannot judge that the creation of rain is evil. Rather, through their own poor choice and acquisition, it became evil for them. For instance, the coming of rain has thousands of results. When God Almighty sends rain, it has numerous benefits. It has thousands of benefits that affect many areas, and all of them are good. If some people suffer from the rain due to their poor choice, if they don't take their umbrella, wander under the rain, catch a cold, get wet, and get harmed, they cannot say, the creation of rain is not a mercy. They cannot decree that the creation of rain is evil. Rather, through their poor choice and acquisition, it became evil for them. He didn't take his umbrella, he got himself wet. He made it evil for himself. He himself made it evil for himself. Also, in the creation of fire, there are many benefits. All of them are good. However, if some people are harmed by fire through their poor acquisition, their misuse, they cannot say the creation of fire is evil, because fire was not created solely to burn him. Rather, he, with his own poor choice, stuck his hand into the fire that was cooking his meal and made his servant his enemy. God created fire as a servant for us, right? It cooks your food. Then in winter you heat your house, you melt iron, you shape it. Who knows what else fire does? God has given it as a servant everywhere. And think of electricity, for instance. We are illuminating this place with an electric lamp. For instance, you get into an elevator, press a button, you go up 3, 5 floors without getting tired. If this electricity were not here, there was some research from America or somewhere. They say if electricity suddenly disappeared in 2 days or 1 day or 12 hours, all life disappears. People in hospitals die. Electricity, I mean, what happens? It's a disaster. So with the creation of electricity, God makes it serve us everywhere. You can't ignore these millions of services and then say, I touched electricity, got shocked, and died. If there were no electricity, we wouldn't have died. You didn't die because there was electricity. You are saying that wrong in the first place. You died because you went and stuck your hand into the electricity. You went with your hands, without gloves, without anything, and died like that. You were harmed because of your own mistake. If you had used it properly according to its laws and so on, it would have served you. Therefore, the creation of electricity is not evil, it is good. The evil there stems from our own actions. Yes. Therefore, these devils, the devils being set upon us, etc., actually enables our progress. For instance, it is said that when a hawk attacks a sparrow, they fly around. For example, in a nest, there are baby sparrows. Then a hawk passes by. The birds trying to escape jump down from the nest. They start to fly. That necessitates flying. Maybe a few fall and are lost, but then those talents emerge. When devils are set upon us, for instance, when there is a rival, countries with strong militaries are generally those that have enemies. Countries with enemies, for example, have strong militaries when they are set upon. We went to Erzurum. Outside it's -40, -30 degrees. Inside you feel cold. All the houses are built accordingly. There are double glazed windows, and also double windows. The walls have internal something or other. Then you don't feel cold there. You come to Iskenderun, and you feel cold. Why? Here, there is no assault of the cold, so there are no precautions either. He feels cold there. There is cold. Then measures have been taken accordingly. What do? You improve the houses, the things. For example, in places where there is an assault, in Iskenderun, sins assault a person a lot, right? This time, what happens? You take precautions with your whole soul in many ways. For instance, in a way that you are not affected by all the attacks, right? Your mindset, your mental structure, your soul structure, everything is fully equipped. You can get into that state, for example, but go to religious places and so on. The person doesn't have such a protective shield. He hasn't developed himself. In places where ideas clash a lot, people's ideas also develop. For example, in places where there is debate and so on. What does the person do? To avoid being defeated. At METU, Middle East Technical University, during registrations I met a kid. They are explaining the existence of God and so on. The kid says, I already believe. I don't need it. Then this kid ends up in the room of the communists. They ask him a question or something. The kid crying out to God comes to our study center. There's Shane. He says, you explained something to me. Could you explain it again? He says, right now I need to learn it. See what happens to him? When there is an attack, when something is set upon him, he feels the need. What seems like evil on the surface actually causes him to learn something. It becomes good. They say that if devils did not exist and were not set upon people, none of the prophets, the saints, all those perfect human beings would have existed. These devils are the means for all of this. For instance, our reading of the RİSALE now, our benefiting from it, is all thanks to such devils. There is the water example, right? Water is flowing. If there is no obstacle in front of it, does it feel the need to rise? When there is an obstacle in front, it feels the need to rise to pass it. Then it passes. That is, when people face difficulties, they need to rise to become stronger, to be able to overcome. For instance, you are going to pray. You pray. If you don't struggle, if you're not struggling, you're not progressing. You need to pray even when you're struggling. On the other side is hell. For example, there is a rival. You've entered the wrestling mat. If you win, you will kill him. If he beats you, you will die. The stakes are so high that you absolutely must win, right? Right now we are at war with Satan. If he beats us, we will go to hell. If we beat him, we will go to heaven. Do we have the option of winning or not winning? It's not like it's okay if we don't win. We absolutely must win. Then how will you win? You need to develop yourself in every way, in terms of knowledge, in terms of thought. Then you progress, thanks to the devils. One can also be defeated. If one uses his will here and wants it, Allah helps and he triumphs. It is said that there is no tasking with the unbearable, teklif-i malayutak. A person is not burdened with a load they cannot carry. That is, once a person wants it, they can definitely win, as long as they want it.